What's up, nerds and nerdettes and we little nerdlings all? It's your buddy Big Johnny G and Two Gun Pixie presents Legendary Gaming, of course. So how's everyone doing today? If you're anywhere in the east coast of America right now, you're probably boiling. It is like 95, 96 degrees out, and the same with the humidity. The real feel is closer to 100, 102. Oh, man, it's nasty out here. But here I am for you, with you, for another Midday Monologue. Now, today's a subject that has come up before, not only with me, but with me on, okay. So when I was at the Board Game Renegades party, Game Board Party 2 parties, I missed the last one, he did an interview where he interviewed a bunch of us all about theme. Plus, I've done my own on theme, or I like to call genre, right? So today is about genres and themes in board games, but not quite so typical. What I'm talking about is mixing up the themes. Now, board games have some themes that are definitely a go-to. You have your fantasy, you have your sci-fi, you have your zombies, and you have your Cthulhian, Lovecraftian horrors. Those are all around you. I mean, the board game community is flooding in those games. And there's a lot of other genres and themes that are touched upon too by the board gaming community. Crime, like the Godfather game or Burgle Brothers. You have historical games like Francis Drake. You have more specific, or other historical games that take place in the Old West, like Western Legends. And then there are games that I really feel drawn to. And that's the ones where they mix it all up. Now, the first time I encountered this, and I think I mentioned this once before, the first time I encountered this was in the, I want to say the early 90s, might have been the late 80s, early 90s. DC Comics came out with a limited issue, I think it was a 4 or 6 issue limited run called Two Gun Mojo. And they took their Wild West character, Jonah Hex, and Joe R. Lansdale was the writer. He wrote a story of horror. A story where our hero, Jonah, has to deal with voodoo magic and zombies. And my mind exploded at that. I was like, wow, this is amazing. Mixing the horror, or more specifically, black magic, voodoo, zombie horror theme in with the Old West. Wow, that was really cool. Now, as far as board games go, there's a few of those that do that, but I don't think that there is enough on the market where they actually do mix up the themes together. Maybe one of the biggest, most popular ones out there might be Zombicide: The Black Plague. I don't have that in my collection. It almost made it into my collection, actually. Regular viewers may have heard me talk about this before, but I'm pretty much done with zombie board games because they all really seem the same. I got 9 or 10 in my collection. I don't feel like I need any more. I mean, I did just back the Tiny Epic Zombies survival game, partly because Tiny Epic, I like the series of games that they do. Scott Alms has been doing fantastic work with that series, and the item meeples were really cool. The price was right, so a bunch of factors came together for me to get that. It's not like I saw it and I was like, yeah, another zombie game, gotta get this. But Zombicide takes it to the Dark Ages. Zombicide: The Black Plague. It's not really the Dark Ages, it's a fantasy setting. So it's mixing fantasy, medieval style, sword and sorcery fantasy with zombies. Alright, not bad, that's cool. I mean, every fantasy game I've ever played has had zombies in it, through magic. But that's cool. Another one that I really, really dig, I own it in my collection. I don't play it enough because of the time. And also I'm a little embarrassed by the work I've done on it. And that's Shadows of Brimstone, which is a Wild West game that deals with Cthulhian horrors that have intruded upon the 1880s, 1890s of the American frontier West. Love that game. The theming of it, the mixing of your typical lawman or scout or even piano player from the bar getting together and going on these dungeon delves where they're facing, I mean, they're not called Cthulhian, Lovecraftian horrors, but when you see the monsters and you read the background of the story, it very much seems like Stephen King's The Mist. It is just so heavily influenced by Cthulhian, Lovecraftian horrors that you might as well just call it that. In the Mouth of Madness, the movie, is another example. It's not based on anything Cthulhian, but it is very, very Cthulhian. And that's what Shadows of Brimstone really feels like. Another one, in fact, the game we're actually getting ready to give away to a lucky subscriber, Escape from the Aliens in Outer Space, the deluxe edition, that is sci-fi and zombies, sci-fi and horror. Sci-fi and horror seem to work very well together, but I want to see other mixes. I want to see other themes and genres in the board gaming community created. I've often said there aren't enough superhero games. Now, there's recently been a little bit of an explosion, that's for sure. And there's a couple of older games that I got into my collection. But it's still an untapped theme as far as most of the other themes that are used in board games. What about doing something like that? What about a superhero horror game or a superhero sci-fi game? Now, a lot of people I've heard talking about creating superhero games for board games. I've actually heard it mentioned that it's difficult to translate the powers. Why? Why is that a problem? Could you explain to me and state fashionable why it's a problem with board game rules and board game construction to make superpowers? Hear me out on this. But you can make wizards. You can make spell users. It's the same freaking thing, okay? All a superhero is a wizard, or maybe more accurately, a psionicist. That's all they are. If you can make a game with people with magical spells, that they have access to these, then that's no excuse that superpowers are too hard to pull off in a game. Now mix it up. I've already shown you how easy it is. I just told you how easy it is. It's no different than a wizard. Now mix it up. How about a sci-fi superhero game? Yeah, like, you know, Guardians of the Galaxy, the movie, I barely consider superhero stuff. I'll tell you the truth. I love it, but I barely consider them superheroes. They're adventurers, sure. Now, the original Guardians of the Galaxies, I consider superheroes because they all had superpowers. You can be a hero without powers, but you can't really be a superhero without something super, extraordinary, paranormal about you. That's the way I feel. Sorry. But that's not, superheroes aren't the only genre that you can mix up with. I really don't see any at all crime games. You know, like I mentioned, Burgle Brothers or the Godfather board game. You know, themed criminal games like that where they're superheroes. Now, HeroClix does have the Batman Gotham City game, where Batman is an NPC and you're playing the villains. So, I mean, that's pretty cool. And then that being said, as far as theme goes, I think there also needs to be more games where you're actively playing the bad guys. It's fun. Everyone wants to play the bad guys. Everyone loves the bad guys. You know why? Because the bad guys are more colorful. They always are. Fact. People think Darth Vader and Boba Fett are cooler than Luke and Leia. In a lot of cases. I mean, I love Luke. I'll take the Jedi any day. But I understand that most people think Darth Vader or Boba Fett are the coolest characters in Star Wars. They're villains. Almost every time someone says someone is the coolest character in a movie franchise or TV show, it's usually the villain. Hannibal Lecter. He was the star of those movies. Even the first one they made, it wasn't Jodie Foster's character. No. Everyone loves the villains. We need more games where we are actively playing the villains. And then on top of that, like I said, mix up the genres. We need more games of mixed genres out there, mixed theme games. Now, like I mentioned earlier, I mentioned the Zombicide Black Plague game. That incorporates magic and everything. So like I said, it's not really a medieval game. I would actually much prefer to see a completely medieval game with no magic, no fantasy in it, other than the fact that there's a zombie apocalypse happening, you know, during the 1400s or something. I think that would be very interesting, because when you're dealing with zombies in a fantasy medieval setting, it's really no different than them being here in the modern time world, because you're using magical spells to sort of simulate high-tech weapons and equipment that you would see in stories nowadays, in modern time stories nowadays, about a zombie apocalypse. So it's a little bit of a cop-out in a sense, I think. You know, that's why I would rather see a game set in the Middle Ages that mixes, like a Middle Ages zombie game or a Middle Ages alien attacks kind of game, where that technology, that mindset of civilization has to deal with this problem. That would be extremely, extremely interesting. For right now, I'd say that my two favorite mixed genre games, my two favorite as of right now, definitely got to say two that I've already mentioned here, and that's Shadows of Brimstone, fantastic game. I would show it off more often, but in that game you have to glue and build the miniatures yourself, and I'm horrible at that, and they look so miserable. I'm probably going to end up using the miniatures I get from Western Legends whenever I play Shadows of Brimstone, just because they look nice. Shadows of Brimstone, great game. If you're looking for a game that mixes up the themes and the genres, with it, cowboys right there versus horror. Like I said, I call it Lovecraftian horror, but it's not specifically Lovecraftian. But if you know the mythos, you're going to see that this is where they were inspired from. Now, the other game I love so much that mixes genres is actually the game that's going to be given away in 2 days on July 4th to one of our lucky subscribers, and that is Escape from the Aliens in Outer Space, where you take a slightly futuristic, only a few years down the road, sci-fi setting in a space station, and now all of a sudden you have these alien hybrid human monsters that want to do nothing but attack and eat and turn others into them. That is a fun game. So look into the mixed theme games, because they add in more than the single games could. And also, like I said, we've seen enough of the single games. The single theme games, no matter how much you love them, like I do. I love the superhero theme games, I love the fantasy, I love the sci-fi, the post-apocalyptic. But to see it mixed brings a little bit of a breath of fresh air, something a little bit different. So take a look into those. And if you know any other games you would consider mixed theme that I haven't mentioned, please put them in the comment, because I would love to know what kind of mixed theme, mixed genre stuff that you like. So thank you very much, everyone. And of course, I want to say thank you, everyone, for following us on Facebook and on Twitter, for checking us out on Instagram, even though we don't get on Instagram as much as we would like to. And of course, as always, everyone, thank you all so much for right here on YouTube, supporting us on YouTube, watching our videos, liking our videos, and of course, sharing our videos. It makes it seem so worthwhile to us. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, my friends, for checking us out. I'm your buddy, Big Johnny G, for Two Gun Pixie presents Legendary Gaming! Yeah!